So you know what it is. When we're talking about the House of Zara, we're basically talking about a designer brand that mimics or replicates some of the more popular designer and or niche fragrances on the market. That's certainly been the case with fragrances like Tiveden and Norland and Ambrox and Warm Black, and they all resemble some popular designer or niche fragrance, and that's definitely the case with this one. This one is called Stormy Day. I think it came out last year in 2021, which is when I initially purchased it. So this one smells like a very popular designer and actually one of my favorite flankers from this line. I'm excited to give you my thoughts on this fragrance, so make sure to stay tuned. Now, before I begin today's review on Stormy Day by Zara, a dirt cheap fragrance. I think this is what, like 80 mils or something like that, and it's $19.90. You can buy it online. If you find it in stores, really, it's a no-brainer. I do want to start things off by mentioning that if you're a fan of fragrance-related content, please do consider supporting the channel by subscribing to it. Hit that bell icon so you could be notified every time I do upload a future video to this channel. Please, it would mean a lot. And of course, give this video a thumbs up if you learned something from today's episode. So basically, this is a very simple fragrance. I think it came out in 2021, and it basically contains 3 ingredients: violet, cacao, and black pepper. Now, when you smell it, you're like, oh yeah, there's definitely something sweet about it. There's definitely something a little powdery or a little chocolatey about it. But right away, you know, I was racking my mind because I was like, it reminds me of something, right? There's something else on the market. I think a designer fragrance that this one is so eerily similar to. And when I thought about it, I was like, there's something fruity in here. And I thought I was smelling pineapple at first. I was like, it can't be Creativentus. And then I thought about it and I realized that it smells like Hugo Boss, the scent Private Accord. Now, Private Accord is an amazing designer fragrance. It has cacao, it has amberwood, it has vanilla, it has coffee, it has this chocolatey vibe about it. It's so like sensual, and in many ways, it's what Bad Boy by Carolina Herrera isn't. And I think it's that dulcet, sort of a sweet, gourmand-like, decadent, sensual, flirtatious cacao vibe that gives it a very unique personality. And I know the original, the scent, is all about this sort of exotic maninka fruit ingredient. And yes, there's something fruity about it. But here, you basically have a clone of that fragrance that smells kind of like 85 to 90% similar. Certainly doesn't last as long as the original, but you're paying 19 bucks for it. So I think for a lot of people, it'll be a very fair trade-off, and hopefully I'm bringing awareness to consumers, especially those who are a fan of Hugo Boss the scent Private Accord. Now you know that there's actually a more affordable option, and I know that Zara is kind of notorious for discontinuing fragrances. I just checked this morning, this fragrance is still available online. So I'm excited to talk to you about the smell. Let's take a quick look at the presentation. Now, to start things off, I do want to mention that I don't have the box for this because I think it came in like a 2-bottle package or 2-bottle presentation. It was this fragrance, Stormy Day, and then another one called Floating Around. I think I've done a video on Floating Around. I've definitely mentioned it in a list at some point, but if I do find a review of it, I'm gonna leave that link down below. But basically, this fragrance opens up with a nice bit of like a chocolatey sweetness. And the cacao was definitely in here, and I was like, oh, this is really nice. There's like something earthy in there, not woodsy necessarily, but I thought I was smelling like this chocolatey patchouli, which kind of put me in the mindset of like a Noir de Noir by Tom Ford, but it's not that. It has the cacao, and there are a number of other designer fragrances that I initially thought of. The first being Bad Boy by Carolina Herrera. And I said, that's not quite it. And then I thought about Cocorico by Jean Paul Gaultier, but that one is really heavy-handed on the chocolate. And then once I thought about that whole pineapple sort of exotic fruity vibe, I was like, that's when I was able to place it. This actually reminds me of the scent Private Accord by Hugo Boss. So in the opening, it smells sweet. You're gonna get that chocolatey touch, and there's something a little spicy about it as well. I know black pepper is listed as an ingredient, but there's something very delightfully fruity about it as well. Now, if you take a look at Private Accord, which I think came out in 2018, composed by Bruno Jovanovic, an amazing perfumer, that fragrance actually has pineapple in it. And smelling this one, I was like, ooh, there's something very tart and juicy and fruity. And initially, yes, I actually did think it was pineapple, but then, you know, it's not listed in the note breakdown. And I know the original after which this is modeled also has vanilla and amberwood and some potentially sweeter ingredients. That's not listed in the note breakdown for this fragrance either. However, there's always so much more than meets the eye when it comes to the actual composition, the note breakdown, and all that stuff. So this one does have this vanillic sweetness residing in the base. It does have this sort of green earthy vibe about it. I'm thinking patchouli. I know the original also has coffee in it. I'm sensing a little bit of coffee from this too, but it's like 30% coffee, 70% cacao, because it really has this slightly dusty, slightly powdery, granulated sort of a chocolate smell, which I think is really, really nice. Now, I don't think it's as non-linear as the original. So the original, you actually got a little citrus, and then it has this fruity coffee vibe, and then it dries down to like this earthy, woodsy, resinous sort of a finish. This one is far more linear in comparison to the original. So it opens up with this coffee, fruity, exotic sweetness, and then it tapers off into like a little bit of woods and like this earthy dry down. That's basically it. You don't get this bright, animated, citrusy opening like you do in the original. So I feel like in many ways this fragrance is lacking compared to the original, but that doesn't change the fact that for people who actually like the scent Private Accord, I think they're gonna really enjoy this one as an alternative. So instead of paying 80 bucks or whatever, I'm sure you can find it at retailers online for a discounted price too. So that would definitely be my first recommendation, right? Like, don't buy the Zara. See if you can buy Hugo Boss the scent Private Accord first. And if for whatever reason you're not finding it for a good price and you know you have like $20 burning a hole in your pocket, then okay, fine, pick this up. But Stormy Day, I think, is a solid recreation of the Hugo Boss, with the exception that it's not as non-linear, it's not as complex, and it doesn't last as long. So if the original lasts 8 hours, 9 hours, depending on your skin chemistry, with this one, you're gonna get like 4 hours on a good day. But for some people, that might be a worthwhile compromise, especially since you're getting a decent amount and yeah, it's very cheap. So anyway, Stormy Day by Zara. Let's go ahead and finish things off with my overall assessment. So first up, in terms of the uniqueness and the overall smell, it's not unique, right? I mean, it is an obvious recreation of a more popular designer fragrance, and one that I don't think did as well as it should have. There were a lot of Hugo Boss fragrances that did really well, and I just didn't like them at all. And then there were some that didn't do as well, and I'm like, what? This scent is awesome, right? So Private Accord is definitely one of my favorites, if not my favorite one, and I'm glad that they have chosen to recreate that one, although it's not marketed as such. But if you do a side-by-side, the juxtaposition will actually reveal quite a number of similarities. Longevity, 4 hours. Projection, okay for the first half hour of application. Zara fragrances don't really last a long time. They do a really good job of delivering niche quality almost at a designer price point, especially with Ambrox, right? If you like Another 13 by Le Labo, but you don't want to spend hundreds of dollars, I think Ambrox is an amazing alternative. And I know there's also a fragrance called Floral Street that also, Arizona Bloom, yeah, that also smells similar to Another 13, but that can be a little bit on the pricey side as well. So I think they're doing a good job, but again, projection leaves a lot to the imagination. The versatility for this fragrance, I do find it to be pretty versatile. You can wear this one dressed up, dressed down. It's not loud enough that, you know, you feel uncomfortable wearing it in certain situations. I think it can be casual or, you know, dressed up. I do think it leans a little bit masculine, and I think in terms of seasons, it'll do well in every season, probably except for the winter time, just because the longevity and the performance is lacking so much. Other seasons are fine. I think somebody who's a little bit younger will enjoy this fragrance a little bit more, given the fact that it has that underlying sweetness that I think will cater to the tastes of like a high schooler or a college student, or somebody who's still very much so a part of the clubbing scene. Presentation for it, it's all right. Zara presentations are always changing. My final verdict is, hey, I kind of said everything already. If you're looking for a solid alternative to Hugo Boss The Scent Private Accord, something that's about 85% similar with inferior longevity but a much cheaper price point, I think you'll really enjoy this Zara fragrance, Stormy Day. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed today's review, or if you took something of value from this video, please do consider supporting the channel by subscribing to it. Hit that bell, give it a thumbs up. Love you guys. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye.